So these days it's easy to maybe feel a bit negative about the state of the world, and it's maybe easy to have kind of a sense of pessimism about events outside the monastery and just the world in general, where the world seems to be headed. It can be easy to have kind of a feeling of darkness and even maybe a sense of despair rising for a lot of people. And we can, maybe wonder what is the best way for us to respond to this present world and the problems that exist outside. We can have a sense of not knowing what is best for us to do, how we should be responding. And I think it's very important to reflect on one of the famous stories from the life of the Buddha, and one of the well-known teachings that the Buddha gave to King Pasenadi. One day the king came to visit him and was describing to the Buddha the various duties that he was engaged in as king and the different kinds of worries and stresses of his life as the king. And then the Buddha said, "What do you think, great king? Suppose that a messenger came to you from the north and said, 'Good king, I've just come from the north, and you should know that I just saw a mountain that's high as the clouds coming this way from the north. It's rolling all over the living beings and the structures, everything, crushing everything in its path. Do what should be done.' And then a messenger were to come from the east and from the south and from the west, and were to give you the same message, that they had just seen a great mountain coming from all of these different directions, rolling towards the city, crushing everything in its path." And then the Buddha asked the king, that being so, being surrounded by these mountains as high as the clouds that are crushing everything in their path, headed for your city, what would you do? And the king basically says, "What could I do, other than practice virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind?" And the Buddha says, "So too, in the same way, I say that sickness, aging, and death have surrounded you on all sides, and they are crushing all beings in their path, and they are headed for you in the same way. The appropriate thing to do in this life is to develop virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind." So really for all of us, no matter who we are, whether we live in a place where, we feel like society is the way that we would like it to be or not, no matter how good our life externally is, we're all in a situation where our future is quite dark. From a worldly perspective, we have a lot of misfortune awaiting us in the future. At the very least, the misfortune of sickness, aging, and death, the misfortune of having to lose everything that we love and have our body and mind eventually fall apart. So that is the future of all living beings. And, when we find ourselves in times of difficulty, whether they're caused by the external world or they're caused by our own body and mind, ultimately the most appropriate way to respond, the way to find real happiness, to find a real refuge, is not through trying to solve the problems of the world or trying to get rid of sickness, aging, and death. The place of real happiness and refuge is within ourselves and through purifying our mind. So offer this for reflection this morning.